Greetings of the day, everyone. I am privileged to welcome you all to the Health Talk series organized by Sadabai Raisoni College of Nagpur, supported by SGR Knowledge Foundation and powered by Raisoni Group of Institutions. The topic for our today's session is hormonal changes during puberty. Hormones are chemical messengers in human bodies that travel to various organs and tissues. They work slowly over time and affect many different processes, including growth, development, and regulation of metabolism. To get a deeper insight in the subject of hormones, we have with us Dr. Sumit Baheti. She has completed with We welcome you, ma'am. She has completed her MBBS from MGM Medical College, Aurangabad in 2001, where she was awarded with a gold medal for securing highest number of marks in the subject of obstetrics and gynecology in university final examination. She also holds a master's degree in obstetrics and gynecology from Seth GS Medical College and KEM Hospitals, Mumbai in 2007. Later, she completed her master's in reproductive medicine and IVF from Homeostasis University Hospital, London in 2017, where she was also awarded with a trophy for securing highest number of marks. She is a reputed member of a number of medical societies around the world. The list of her qualifications, training, and awards is never ending. She has a professional experience of 15 long years and is presently working as a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist at Kingsway Hospitals, Nagpur. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you for having me here, Nehal. Thank you for inviting me for this noble cause of spreading awareness about the important issues of hormonal changes during puberty. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Now, without taking any much time of yours, let's start with the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, greetings of the day, everyone. Today we are here to discuss an important issue about the hormonal changes that are happening in the body during the pubertal development or the adolescent years. So basically, hormones are the body's chemical messengers which are secreted into the bloodstream by specific glands in the body, which are known as the endocrine glands. So these hormones are the chemical substances which are secreted by these endocrine glands into the bloodstream, and then they are carried through blood to different organs and tissues where they act. That is the site of their action. So basically, the important parameters where these hormones act and they exert their effects are the different remote tissues and the organs which have the receptors which are specific for the action of these hormones. So there are many types of hormones which act on the different tissues and the different functions of the body. They are regulating the different functions of the body, like the development and growth during the pubertal development and growth during pregnancy. The fetal development and growth is also affected by these hormones. Then metabolism of food, then internal homeostasis, that is the day-to-day maintenance of the internal environment of the body, like monitoring of the blood pressure, monitoring of the blood sugar controls, and maintenance of the temperature. These all processes are affected by hormones. These are streamlined and fine-tuned by the different hormones in the body, right? And then there is reproductive growth, reproductive health. The menstrual cycle in women is also regulated by the different hormones in the body. Then sexual function, cognitive function, mood, the different expressions of mood, then maintenance of body temperature. These are all functions of the hormones in the body. There are different glands in the body. The endocrine glands, like we discussed, these are the different glands in the body which secretes the hormones. The most important glands are the hypothalamus, the pituitary glands, and the pineal glands in the brain. The other glands in the body are the thyroid gland, the parathyroid gland, the pancreas, and in males the testes, and in females the ovaries. So these are the sites where mainly these hormones are being produced. and then they go and act on the target tissues, right?
Yes, ma'am. Now that we know what are hormones, how do they work, and which are the target tissues, what are its functionalities, can you please tell us how does hormones affect overall physiological and psychological health of a person?
Right. So for the action of the hormones, the three important parameters are there, which the proper interaction between these three important parameters is what is needed for the action of the hormones. So the first thing is the endocrine gland, which is producing the hormone. The second parameter is the hormone itself, that is the chemical substance which is being formed in these glands. And third thing is the receptors. There are trillions of receptors which are present on the cell surfaces or inside the cell where these hormones act. So these endocrine glands, like we discussed the different glands in the body. So these are basically surrounded by different a network of blood vessels, which which bring the material which are needed for synthesizing these hormones inside the endocrine glands. So once these hormones are produced in the glands, then they are carried to through these blood vessels. They are secreted into the blood, and through these blood vessels they are carried to different tissues and organs. Now they do not act on every cell or every organ of the body. Not every hormone acts on every cell or every organ of the body. So there are specific receptors, like a lock and key model, we can consider it like that. So a specific key fits into a specific lock. So similarly, the cell where these receptors, specific receptors are present, there only the hormone can go and bind it. And then this binding of this receptor and the hormone causes multiple changes inside the cell. And when these multiple changes are happening inside the cell, we are thinking about one cell right now. So when these things, when these multiple these changes are happening on in multiple millions of cells at one time, then we see the different changes which happen in the body due to these hormones. So the different changes which we can see, the hormones can regulate our blood pressure, the heart rate, then the temperature maintenance, the blood sugar maintenance, the breathing rate. Everything is dependent on hormones. And the most important thing which we all can see is the pubertal growth changes, which are driven by the hormones. So basically, there are different types of mechanisms by which these hormones work. There are certain hormones which are released, and then they act on different endocrine glands to help them stimulate their hormone production. So the hormones from the hypothalamus and the pituitary, they are basically secreted, and they stimulate or inhibit the production of hormones by the other glands in the body. So for example, if we take the thyroid gland, so hypothalamus secretes a hormone, as we all know about the thyroid gland in general, so we can just discuss about that. So the hypothalamus secretes a hormone, the thyrotropin releasing hormone, which acts on the pituitary gland and to release the hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, the TSH, which we clinically measure during our blood tests, the TSH hormone. Now this TSH hormone acts on the thyroid gland to secrete the hormones T3 and T4, the triiodothyronine and the thyroxine, which then acts on the tissues. So there are two types of ways in which the hormones act basically. So certain glands, they secrete hormones which act on the other glands to stimulate their hormone production, and then there are certain glands which stimulate the product, which produces hormones which act on the organs and the tissues, right?
Ma'am, now could you tell us, please, that what are the differences between a person suffering from hormonal imbalances or a person experiencing hormonal changes? A person may misunderstand a hormonal imbalance in the form of hormonal changes. So,
Right.
how do we figure out that?
Yes, the hormonal changes are the normal changes which are happening in the body. Throughout the day also there are certain changes which are happening in certain hormonal levels. Throughout the cycle also, throughout the menstrual cycle also, there are different levels of certain hormones in the body. And then major thing which I was discussing some time back was the hormonal changes which are happening during puberty. So these are the normal milestones of the body during which the hormonal changes are meant to happen, and basically they are regulated to happen that way. So during puberty, like in males, when the testes starts secreting testosterone hormone, the puberty begins in males. And this testosterone then triggers the gradual development of the sexual organs, the growth spurt which happens in the boys during this period, the deepening of the voice, the development of the facial hair, pubic hair, which happens during this phase of time. So these are the changes which are seen during this time due to the normal hormonal changes which are happening in the body. In females, they are under the influence of the hormones of the brain. The ovary starts secreting the hormones estrogen and progesterone. So this estrogen production marks the beginning of pubertal changes in females, with the pubertal growth spurt, then development of the breasts, then this hormone starts its effect on the lining of the womb, and it marks the beginning of the menstrual cycle. So this is one part of it about the hormonal changes happening during puberty. So these hormones are basically responsible, and these hormones produced by the testes and the ovaries are under the control of hormones from the brain, from the pituitary gland, the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone. So which are basically suppressed till that time, and then they start the development. Now that the other part of it is the hormonal changes which happen in a female during one menstrual cycle. As the egg starts developing inside the ovaries, there are different hormones which are produced through these eggs, and then they counter checks the development of multiple eggs in one cycle by fine tuning of the hormonal internal milieu which is there. And that is how we get one follicle, only one follicle developing in one cycle. And if it is not, pregnancy is not there, then the menstrual cycle happens. So there is a cascade of events which are happening during this time period of one menstrual cycle in the hormonal change. The hormonal changes are happening in the body, which leads to this final physical event which we see as menstruation. So these are the hormonal changes happening at different time of the body. Then third thing where the hormonal changes will be happening is the pregnancy. So during pregnancy, there are multiple hormonal changes happening in the body to support the growth of the developing baby, and the changes happening in the mother to support this growth and to carry on this pregnancy. So there are multiple changes. So these are all hormonal changes which are happening. So these are normal physiological things which are happening at different parts of that life cycle. But then there can be certain hormonal imbalances which can lead to certain problems and can manifest that way. So there can be like in the most commonly seen nowadays during this adolescent period or pubertal period is obesity, right? So with this fat deposition, with the sedentary lifestyle, with the junk food consumptions and increase all these things, what happens? Fat deposition is happening, lack of exercise is there, and a lot of junk foods are there, only TV, video games, everything is happening nowadays. So that because of that, what happens? The fat deposition is happening, and this fat deposition will change the normal hormonal balance in the body, and that is where the hormonal imbalance happens. So now what we normally think that testosterone is present only in males and the estrogen is present only in females, but it is not like that. It is present in both of them. So the hormones are present in males and females. All the hormones are present, but the quantities of the hormones present is different. The testosterone or the androgens are higher in males, right? While they are in a minimum minute quantity in females. But with this hormonal imbalance that is happening because of the fat deposition in the body with obesity, the testosterone content or the androgen content in the females increases. And that is why this then affects the normal menstrual cycle, the routine mechanism of menstrual cycle, which we discussed some time back, that it has to grow, then it has to rupture, and then if there is no pregnancy period happens. This all is disturbed with this changed hormonal balance in the body. That is the hormonal imbalance which you are discussing. So this hormonal imbalance will lead to irregularities of periods. Then due to the increased androgen levels in the body, there will be excess of facial hair, unwanted facial hair that is not supposed to be there in females. So these are the indirect effect. They may have many pimples or acne. So this is what happens because of the hormonal imbalances.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you now tell us that what are some symptoms, rather some straight red flags that your body is suffering from hormonal imbalance and you should go see a doctor?
Yes. So, like we discussed about the menstrual cycle and the hormones related to it. So, similarly, if because of some disease or some stress, or even because of some dietary habits or food habits, eating habits also, there can be certain disturbances in the hormonal mechanisms and the hormonal functioning. So there can be too low production of hormones, or there can be too much production of certain hormones, or there can be some different actions of certain hormones. So the most common thing what we can discuss is diabetes, which we all know. So the hormone responsible is the insulin, right? So insulin is produced by the pancreas. Now, if the production of insulin is low, why is insulin needed? Insulin is needed for the control of blood sugar levels in the body, right? So as we eat certain foods, like the carbohydrate content in the food will increase our blood sugar level. So this insulin from the pancreas will regulate the blood sugar levels. Now, if the production of insulin from the pancreas is less, that is one scenario, or the insulin is produced normally, but it is not able to act on the receptors like we discussed. It has to act on certain receptors, then only it can exert its effect. So if it is not able to act on those receptors properly because of certain changes in the body. So in this scenario, there will be hyperglycemia because the insulin is not acting. So the sugar levels will increase, what we call as diabetes, right? So this is one scenario. The other thing could be, let us discuss about the other gland, that is thyroid. If there is less production of the thyroid hormone, then it will have effects on the different body systems. Yeah, okay. So if there are in thyroid gland, if there is less of thyroid hormone being produced by the thyroid gland, basically first there are certain checkpoints also in the body to take care of these minor variations which are happening because of the stress or because of the disease or some certain drugs. So if the thyroid gland is producing less hormone, the brain takes control and stimulatory hormone is produced in more quantity and that stimulatory hormone will stimulate the thyroid little more to produce more hormone. So that is the checkpoint one, which the body tries to take control. But if it is not able to take control here, then uh, so what happens when the thyroid, let us consider about the thyroid gland. So if the thyroid gland is producing less amount of the hormone thyroid, triiodothyronine or thyroxine, T3 and T4. So the brain tries to take control and increases the production of the thyroid stimulating hormone from the pituitary gland, which then stimulates the thyroid gland to produce more hormone. So this is the checkpoint number one. If it tries to take control, fine. So when we measure the levels in the blood of these hormones, so if we see TSH is high and the T3 and T4 levels are normal, we call it subclinical hypothyroidism, right? Because the hormone levels are low, we call it hypo. If the hormone levels are higher, we call it hyper. So if the hormone level of thyroid is less, but it is not yet significantly affecting the body and the brain is trying to take control, we call it subclinical hypothyroidism. But if we cross this stage and the body is not able to take control, then we can see that the T3 and T4 levels are also falling, and that is the clinical hypothyroidism. So when these changes happen and the thyroid hormone production is less, that is hypothyroidism is happening. So during that time, it will have effect on the body, throughout the body, with decreased heart rate. Then there will be weight gain, there will be fatigability, increased fatigability, and depression. All these things can happen because of hypothyroidism. With hyperthyroidism, that means overproduction of the thyroid hormones, if it is happening due to some cause, then it will lead to intolerance to heat, then weight loss and irritability, increased heart rate will be there. So all these changes can be there because of the thyroid hormone. So we discussed about the hormones from pancreas, the hormone from thyroid, right? Then the other important and the pandemic, I'll say right now, is about the obesity. So related to obesity, the changes which the girls are commonly coming with are the irregularities of the periods, then about the excessive facial hair growth, acne or pimples, in general language what we call. So these are the red flags where you are supposed to visit your doctor and get yourself evaluated.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the knowledge. And now, please share us some tips to maintain a healthy stimulation of hormones lifelong.
Yeah, so the most important thing will be the first and the most important thing which I tell all my patients is the lifestyle changes. That is what is needed for this generation now, because the changes, all these diseases were not a part of our life few years back, few decades back, maybe I can say. But now for
Yes,
last
ma'am.
last 1 decade, we are seeing that there is a lot many people. I think every one of you of your generation must be aware of about this polycystic ovary. I have PCO, I have PCOS, I have PCOD, right?
Yes,
You
yes.
must have heard about that. So this word has become such a common thing nowadays because of the lifestyle changes. So there is lack of exercise, there is a lot of food availability, which leads to sorry. So there is the most important thing is the change in the dietary habits, change in eating habits, and lack of exercise. So the most important thing that is needed is a proper balanced diet and daily routine exercise, and less of screen time, social interactions. That is what is needed to maintain a healthy and balanced life.
Okay, ma'am. Next, any advice or something else you would want to share with us for our well-being?
The same thing like lifestyle changes, which I will recommend again and again to this generation, because see, the BMI, you must be aware about the BMI, the body mass index, which we calculate depending upon the weight and the height ratio. Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
So the only weight of 70 kg or only the weight of 65 kg is not what is important. What is important is how much is your weight in relation to your body height. So the
Yes.
height so that is the body mass index. So up to 25 BMI is normal. Above 25 we call it overweight, and more than 30 BMI is obesity. So this obesity is basically the fat deposition in the body. So this fat deposition is what is causing uh, important changes, hormonal imbalances in the body of girls, basically females. We are talking about females right now, which
Yes,
will
ma'am.
lead to all these disturbances of irregularity of periods, and then there is a boom of infertility, inability to conceive because of the inability to have a proper coordinated events in the menstrual cycle, which are supposed to happen, the fine balancing of the hormones, that is what is needed. So hormonal changes are good, but the hormonal imbalance is not good.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your advice. We'll try and implement it in our daily lives. And now this brings us to the end of the session. I once again thank you, ma'am, for taking time out from your busy schedule and sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you. It was my
Thank you,
pleasure.
ma'am.
Thank you for inviting me to this session. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Looking forward to many more sessions with you.
Sure. Thank you.
Welcome to Raisoni Group, a vision beyond.